Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. Over the last 18 days, the KHL has seen its 2021 season get well underway, despite battling through several hiccups, many postponed games, and a number of positive test results for the virus. While most of the KHL's player base is comprised of Europeans that have spent their entire pro careers suiting up solely in the K or elsewhere across the continent, the league also houses many players who spent considerable time in the NHL too. Whether the yearly salary overseas is better for them in the long run, they want another shot in the NHL after failing to earn a spot on a roster this year, or they want to play a bigger role on a team than what was available to them in North America, many players that once took to the ice in the best league in the world are now finding great success on the other side of the globe. Now, I put a poll on my community tab roughly 10 days ago with a few options as to which video I should make this weekend, and the overwhelming majority of you wanted me to take a closer look at former NHL players who now spend their days lighting up the scoreboard in Europe's top league. So with that in mind, here's my list of 10 former NHLers who are dominating the KHL. Before we begin, it's important to mention that the KHL season is only a few weeks old at the time of this recording, so when you see that several players have still scored point totals in the single digits, do keep in mind that every KHL team has played just a handful or even up to a dozen games at the time of this recording. Also, while there may be more productive players in the KHL standings who were also able to briefly make it to the NHL, just know that I've tried to balance this list between players who have produced the best numbers so far this season and guys that have played the most games in the NHL during their career and are therefore more recognisable to the average hockey fan. Now that's out of the way, let's get on with this list, shall we folks? First up at number 10 we have Anders Lindback. The only goaltender to feature on this list, Anders Lindback has kicked his season off with a pretty perfect performance. A 7th round draft pick by the Nashville Predators in 2008, Lindback spent parts of 6 seasons in the NHL, split between 5 different teams, and earned a reputation as a decent backup netminder during his stint in the Bigs, posting a 45, 58 and 8 record, a 2.87 goals against average, and a .904 save percentage in 130 games. Following his final tenure in the league with the Arizona Coyotes in 15-16, Lindback then spent time in the AHL, the SHL and the Swiss National League, before joining the KHL during the 1920 season as he signed a 1-year contract with Torpedo. This season though, Lindback has taken his talents to Euorpe and has produced a perfect start for the Finnish side, winning his only game of the season so far by registering a 23-save shutout against Neftehimmig. Given that Euorpe is now under quarantine until September 25th, it's gonna be a little while until Lindback gets to tend the pipes once again. So while he may not suit up anytime soon, at least his stats will continue to look brilliant. I would have liked to have picked another netminder at this spot, who has played more games than Lindback has so far this season, and has still put up decent numbers, but the KHL really seems to lack netminders who have spent noticeable time in the NHL, so Lindback makes the cut. Next up, at number 9, we have Magnus Paajravi-Svensson. The skater on this list with the most NHL games played, Magnus Paajravi-Svensson has used his lengthy experience in the best league in the world to develop into quite the productive player this season. The 10th overall pick of the 2009 draft by the Edmonton Oilers, Paajravi-Svensson would suit up in 467 NHL games over 9 seasons, split between the Oilers, the St. Louis Blues and the Ottawa Senators, scoring 62 goals and 124 points in the process. After spending the 18-19 season with Ottawa, the Swedish forward took his talents back across the pond and joined Locomotive for the 1920 season, where he took some time to readjust to the European game by scoring 19 points in 39 games. This year, Paajravi-Svensson seems to have started off as he means to go on, as he has notched 2 goals and 4 points in just 3 games, whilst also being named the KHL's Forward of the Week in Week 1. He may have played the least amount of games of any skater on this list so far this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if Magnus matched or even surpassed the players higher up when he catches up to their games played. Keep an eye on him folks, I think he's going to have a good year. At number 8, we have Chris Wideman. The only American-born player on this list, Chris Wideman is making one hell of a first impression during his debut year overseas. A 4th round pick by the Ottawa Senators back in 2009, Wideman would suit up in 181 NHL games, split over 4 seasons between the Senators, the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, scoring 16 goals and 45 points for his efforts. Having seen his last NHL action in 18-19, and having spent the following year solely in the AHL, the American defenseman decided to move overseas for the first time and join Torpedo for the 2021 season. Since joining the league, Wideman has become quite the productive player, scoring at a point-per-game pace thanks to his 2 goals and 6 points in 6 games. Pretty impressive for a blue liner in his first season playing outside of North America. However, Wideman's success hasn't come without its adjustments though, as he has recently found himself suspended for 1 game due to a pretty nasty slash against Salavat Yuleyev. Here's hoping Wideman doesn't make a habit of trying to break his opponent's ankles and continues his strong production for the rest of the season. It would be a lot of fun to see a D-man compete for the scoring title. Next, at number 7, we have Linden Vey. The first Canadian to be featured on this list, Linden Vey might have spent a few years in the K already, but his dominant play shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. A 4th round draft pick in 2009 by the Los Angeles Kings, Vey spent parts of 4 seasons in the NHL, split between the Kings, the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames, where he scored 14 goals and 44 points in 138 games. Following a 4-game stint with Calgary in 16-17, the Canadian forward has spent the past 3 seasons in the KHL, suiting up for Barys Astana and CSKA Moscow, before signing a 2-year contract with SKA St. Petersburg this offseason. With a goal and 6 points in 7 games to start the year, Vey seems to be continuing his 40-point production that he had each year with Moscow during the 2 seasons prior, and he could even set new career highs if he keeps up his current scoring pace. Will he be able to do so? Let's wait and see. At number 6, we have Dmitry Yaskin. One of the KHL's top point scorers last season, Dmitry Yaskin seems to be picking up right where he left off to start his sophomore year in the league. A 2nd round pick by the St. Louis Blues in 2011, Yaskin took to the ice in 303 NHL games over 7 seasons, split between the Blues and the Washington Capitals, scoring 27 goals and 69 points in that span. After his lone year in Washington during the 18-19 season, the Russian-Czech forward took his talents much closer to home as he signed a 1-year contract with Dynamo Moscow. Once in Russia's capital, Yaskin had quite the debut year, scoring 31 goals and 63 points in just 58 KHL games, good enough for 2nd place in league scoring, behind only his fellow line mate and also brief NHLer, Vadim Shipachyov. Yaskin seems eager to score even more than he did last year, as he has already potted 5 goals in 6 games this season, which puts him tied for 3rd place in goals at the time of this recording. Considering he's now in his 2nd year with Moscow, and he's still playing alongside Shipachyov on the same line, I expect both of these forwards to finish pretty high in the scoring race by the end of the season. Halfway through this list now, at number 5, we have Anton Slepyshev. One of only 3 players on this list to have suited up in the KHL before playing in North America, Anton Slepyshev certainly feels right at home this season. A 3rd round pick in 2013 by the Edmonton Oilers, Slepyshev would play parts of 3 seasons in the NHL, all with Edmonton, and score 10 goals and 23 points in 102 games. Once his final stint with the Oilers came to an end in 17-18, the Russian forward would return home and join CSKA Moscow for the 18-19 season, where he scored 33 goals and 70 points in 110 KHL games over the next 2 seasons. In fact, Slepyshev continues to suit up for Moscow to this very day, and has produced an impressive start to the 2021 season by scoring 3 goals and 6 points in 6 games. Given that CSKA lost several important members of their roster this past off-season, Slepyshev will be relied upon more than ever to produce the numbers, but considering his growth in the KHL in the last 2 seasons, I think he'll be able to handle it, and then some. At number 4, we have Igor Ozhiganov. The 2nd and final defenseman on this list, Igor Ozhiganov seems to be taking his game to the next level during his 10th season in the league. An undrafted defenseman, Ozhiganov signed as a free agent with the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2018, but his skills failed to adjust to the North American game, as he spent just a single season in Canada and scored 7 points in 53 games. After this disappointing season, the defenseman would return to Russia and join Akbars Kazan for the 1920 season, before being traded to SKA St. Petersburg midway through the year. Ozhiganov continues to suit up for St. Petersburg to this day, and has seen his strong pre-season form translate into a pair of goals and 7 points in 7 regular season games to start the year. Given that he's a defenseman, posting a point-per-game pace 2 weeks into the season is a pretty impressive achievement. It may have taken him a decade to reach this point, but that makes his rise to the top all the sweeter. Next up, at number 3, we have Jori Lehtera. A veteran of 4 KHL seasons before joining the NHL, Jori Lehtera took some time to rediscover his goal-scoring form overseas, but boy has he found it now. A third-round pick by the St. Louis Blues in 2008, Lehtera would take to the ice in 307 NHL games split between the Blues and the Philadelphia Flyers, scoring 34 goals and 111 points for his efforts. Following his departure from the league under controversial circumstances, since he was handed a drug offence charge in Finland due to allegedly purchasing and possessing cocaine, Lehtera moved to the KHL for the 1920 season and joined SKA St. Petersburg, where he scored 15 goals and 30 points in 51 games. This season, though, Lehtera joined Spartak Moscow on a 1-year deal and has kicked off his 2021 campaign by scoring 3 goals and 6 points in 4 games for a Spartak team that has struggled to pick up wins early in the year. Let's just hope Lehtera can keep up his scoring pace, move past his turbulent past, and make a name for himself overseas once more. As long as he doesn't touch the white stuff again, everything should be fine, right? Penultimately, at number 2, we have Ryan Spooner. The other Canadian-born player to feature on this list, Ryan Spooner has now gotten comfortable in the KHL and is really turning up the intensity in his sophomore year in the league. A second-round pick in 2010 by the Boston Bruins, Spooner spent parts of 7 seasons in the NHL, split between 4 different teams, where he scored 48 goals and 167 points in 325 games. After spending the 18-19 season playing for 3 different NHL teams, the Canadian forward made the move overseas the following year and joined Belarus side Dynamo Minsk, where he made a great first impression by notching 10 goals and 37 points in 43 games. Spooner is back with Minsk for the current 2021 season and has found a way to kick his production up a notch since the year prior, as he has scored a goal and 7 points in just 5 games, making him one of 4 players on this list to have scored at over a point per game pace over 2 weeks into the season. If he keeps putting up numbers like these, Spooner could see himself back in the NHL in no time. However, if he cools off a little and the offers don't come rolling in, I'm sure he'll find plenty of opportunities to continue playing overseas. Before we get to number 1, I have 2 honourable mentions that I would like to give to Pavel Datsyuk and Alexander Semin, both of whom made their 250th appearance in the KHL earlier this season, and both have started off their respective years pretty well, with Datsyuk scoring 7 points in 6 games, while Semin has scored 4 points in 5 games. So congrats to the Magic Man and Mr. Bongo Drums. And finally, last but certainly not least, at number 1, we have Markus Granlund. One of the league's most recent additions from overseas, Markus Granlund tops our list thanks to him hitting the ground running since joining the KHL. A second-round draft pick by the Calgary Flames back in 2011, Granlund has suited up in 335 NHL games over 7 seasons between the Flames, the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers, scoring 58 goals and 101 points in that span. Having been left off Edmonton's roster during their elimination from the play-in round several weeks ago, the Finnish forward decided that he needed to play overseas in order to showcase his game in a larger role and hopefully earn a new contract in the NHL. So he signed a 2-year contract with KHL side Salavat Yuleyev in July of this year. Since moving across the pond, Granlund has produced one hell of a start in the KHL, as he has scored 5 goals and 11 points in just 7 games, placing him second in league scoring behind his fellow line mate Timu Hartikainen. Given that he could spend the next 2 years of his career with the team if the NHL doesn't come knocking, the early signs are showing that this could be quite the fruitful affair for both Granlund and Salavat. So, will Granlund return to the NHL after a dominant season abroad, or will he spend the next 2 years with Salavat and help the team try and lift the Gagarin Cup? I guess time will tell. And that's my list of 10 former NHLers who are dominating the KHL. What do you guys think about this list? Do you think all of these players will continue to dominate for the rest of the year, or will some fall off while others shine even brighter? Also, do you want me to make more videos on European hockey? I don't really have a structure for my weekend videos, so if you guys want to see more European-based videos at the weekends, do let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Connor B, John Plomin, Jordan Whitehead, Martin Tolness, Paul Mallia, Roman from London, The Legacy, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.